Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the BigMx Radio podcast. This episode is brought to you by Racetech and Luxon Mx. Let's be honest, the bike could probably be handling a little bit better. Some suspension would help, but also a set of triple clamps from our friends over at Luxon Mx, and you can save right now with discount code BigMx 2025 at checkout. That's 10% off of your order. If you're buying a brand new set of triple clamps, it's $100 back in your jeans, and maybe you can use that money towards some more time on the track. I am your host, Brad Gebhart, joining the podcast for his fourth time on the show. Love talking shop with this guy because he knows what he's talking about. Billy Wight. Billy, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, man?
Not doing too bad, brother. Really looking forward to chatting with you. Every time that we end up on the podcast together, I learn something about motorcycles in general. I feel like the audience is the same, and we've got some better audio than we did last time, so things are looking good.
Indeed.
Absolutely, my friend. And you've got your Phoenix handlebars hat on, which you always seem to have. I don't know if Jason Gerald has just like an unlimited amount of hats that he supplies you with. Maybe that's just your lucky hat. The company's been growing ever since you started wearing it. What's the genesis behind the hat?
I just like Jason. He's a cool dude and makes some good products. So he sent me some hats and I wear them. It's
Fair
pretty much
enough.
it.
That might be the most motocross. I promote my buddy's company statement than ever. Jason is a very good guy, and he's also part of the motorcycle industry jobs company that is basically the only job board for the sport of motocross. Everyone's wondering, how do I get a job as a mechanic? Well, you can go to motorcycle industry jobs and find out exactly that. So in 2025 has been a very exciting year for you, Billy. I feel like the motocross community as a whole has really adopted the Luxon MX company more than ever. I think you probably in your sales would definitely reflect a big just sort of like a welcoming to the company by the community as a whole, as well as you've dove headlong into the off-road world as well. Talk a little bit about 2025 as a whole, as well as your sort of your foray into the woods and everything that comes along with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been in primarily in the motocross space for the last, I don't know how long, 4 or 5 years, um, as far as sponsoring teams. And that's been growing more and more every year, which has been great. This last year, we really kind of tried to expand more into the off-road world. So GNCC, NEPG, uh, the enduro cross and hard enduro stuff. Um, and we're working on getting some more stuff, works racing and whatnot going. But really found a lot of success with GNCC and National Enduro with the Red Bear Rocky Mountain team. So factory Kawasaki guys, Stu Baylor, Josh Toth, all those guys. And they're really killing it. Lots of GNCC wins, overalls, podiums, um, and really just kind of dominating in the national enduro side of things.
Yeah, they
Uh,
certainly have. Like, tell me a little bit about working with Stu Baylor. The guy's a character, if I can speak freely, a cartoon character at that. What's it like working with the guy? Because he does have a lighter side, but he's also serious as a heart attack about going fast in the woods.
yeah, and I think that's the perfect mix. Really, is ability to have a sense of humor and be just a generally cool dude, but also be serious when it matters and really make things happen to take the wins. So he's been nice to deal with. Easy to get information from and talk back and forth about testing and what works, what doesn't work, and it's pretty simple to make changes to make him go faster, which is good for both of us.
What surprised you about moving into the off-road world more in 2025?
Um, Nothing really surprising. The biggest change is the off-road, I think, is a just much bigger market than motocross. Motocross is what I grew up on, so that's kind of why I started there. And I ride moto, but I grew up in the desert, so I rode off-road stuff quite a bit,
Yeah, works.
and still do. So I always loved that too. It's just never really extended into the off-road world. mostly time and resources on the company's end. But now we're able to get into that, and it's been a good first year, and we're looking to expand more in the coming years.
So I'd imagine when the Red Bear Kawasaki team was first using the clamps, they're probably impressed with them right off the hop, but obviously because it's a completely different discipline, they need different things than what a typical motocross racer or a supercross racer might be needing. Um, what kind of feedback did you get from the Red Bear team and guys like Cody Webb and guys like Cody and Cody Webb and Cooper Abbott? These guys are giving you different feedback than you're used to getting from your typical superstars and supercross like Frederick Norn.
Yeah, so there are some differences in off road, obviously, than moto, but as far as a triple clamp goes, there's really no difference as far as what our design goals are, just across all disciplines, really. Um, you obviously want something as light as possible. That goes without saying, and strong enough to do the job. And the forces and everything are very similar between both disciplines. The one thing what people question is the stiffness. Do you want more flex, less flex, what directions, etc. And really, the way we've designed things and the way we've optimized things, everything works the same across all disciplines. You want as much stiffness as possible in every single direction except front to back. So front to back is where you get your comfort, and then all the other directions you want to maximize stiffness so you get the most steering precision, the better feel to the tire, more confidence, and that's true no matter what you're doing. Um, there will be some differences in offset and geometry, but our Gen 3 Pro clamps are adjustable for that reason. So 21 to 24 millimeter offset
That's a
in
big
1 millimeter.
range.
Yeah, in 1 millimeter increments. And that handles most everyone. That changes a bit depending on some bikes, like Beta is 20 to 23, but it's still 4 different offsets. Um, so as far as the triple clamps go, there's really no changes. They're not running anything different than the PRMX Kawasaki motocross team is running, or ISRT. Exact same product. We are doing some development. I mean, we talked briefly before about our engine mounts, the rubber mounted engine mounts.
Of course.
The off-road guys are really excited about that. So we're developing a set right now with Stu Baylor's testing some for us. Cody Webb has a set on his two-stroke that he's doing some testing with. So it's been good to get those additional avenues of testing in addition to just the motocross world. But generally, most all of our parts transfer over between the disciplines just fine.
Interesting. So, like, I think the biggest thing when it comes to like when I go into the woods, the pitch and yaw of the bike is something that I notice the most as far as like just the biggest difference as far as the way my bike is handling. Like I don't typically feel like I'm experiencing a lot of straight line instability. Is the fact that some in many cases the speeds sometimes out on the trees because they might be a little bit like there's sometimes obviously they're at like full pace, but for the most part the pace is a little bit down. Like, are there any adjustments on your part that need to be put into place for that, or what's the story there?
I mean, not too much. It's really just an offset change, and that's going to be track dependent, bike dependent, rider dependent.
Okay.
The generally, and this goes for off road, motocross, outdoors, whatever, supercross. The faster the track, the faster the rider, the longer the offset that you want. If you have a really tight track, then you're going to want to go shorter offset. So that's why you see like in supercross, people are running a shorter offset, say 21, 22, and then the exact same chassis, they'll go to motocross outdoors or off-road, and they're going to be at 23 or 24. And then like the hard enduro guys, they might want to run shorter offset because they're going real slow. A lot of it is bike dependent too, so it's not a hard fast rule on which number works for what, but yeah, we have an idea what works for what bike and what discipline, so it's a good starting point. But then being that it's adjustable, that the riders and teams go out and play with it from there and see what they like.
Yeah, the adjustability is what allows them the freedom to really find that sweet spot. How does working with the Red Bear Kawasaki team differ from working with guys like Cody Webb or Cooper Abbott?
Um, I mean, the Red Bear's got a lot more resources. They're factory Cowie, so
Mhm.
they've got like a marketing team, and they after every race they send out videos and photos from the race, some edited videos even. So it's just a from a marketing perspective, it's great because we just have a ton of content we can work with just immediately that's relevant. Whereas like Cody Webb and Cooper Abbott are they're kind of their own guys, so they're kind of responsible for everything. Um,
Right. Unless they have
so
a videographer that they're paying weekly, it's tough to get some content, I'd imagine.
yeah, and that goes for everything. I mean, they don't have mechanics, they don't have the team rig's not driven to the race for them, so that they don't provide as much as far as like useful media or anything like that. But they are very useful as far as feedback of testing, what they want, and then obviously the results are there. So it's a different experience, mostly resource driven.
Certainly. And I know you've gotten some new products coming out seemingly like every couple of months. You guys are working on something new. We talked about engine mounts before, something that currently Stu Baylor's working on for the on the Kawasaki side of things. What are some of the things that you're really excited about that have rolled out recently and some of the reaction that you've gotten from the community as a whole?
The rubber mounted engine mounts have been really big. We've been slowly rolling those out for new models. We've got Yamaha pretty well covered now. 250 and 454 strokes are available, and then 125 and 252 strokes are available. Um, Working with Stu on prototypes for Kawasaki 250 and 450. Um, I'm working on Ducati at the moment, both triple clamps and engine mounts. Um, We've got all the KTM Austrian bike stuff is in the works. Honda's in the works for the engine mounts. And we got some new exciting products in the works that I can't talk about at the moment because they're not public, but they should be some game changers, particularly in the off-road space.
That must be such an exciting thing for you as a guy who grew up a participant and a fan and now are ingrained into this sport, now working on stuff that you can't freely share on a podcast like this. Those are some exciting things that probably weren't part of your world even as much as 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, being in the engineering space for the last 20 years, there's been a lot of stuff I can't share or talk about, but
I guess, yeah, you're used to that part.
it's not stuff I'm terribly excited about either. So it's being excited about a product and an industry. It makes it a lot harder. Like I want to tell you what the new product is, but for business reasons, I should not. Um, so we'll wait till it's ready to launch. But we do have prototypes that have been tested, and everyone's stoked on it so far that knows about it.
Speaking of excitement around the sport and excitement about things you can't really talk about, there's been a lot of excitement around Luxon MX as a brand as a whole. Like I said off the top, the community seems to have really adopted you guys and brought you guys close. And that's kind of has started with some of the original teams that you supported. Obviously, the International Supercross team. For those who are watching, you got all their team jerseys from, I believe it was the San Diego round.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you guys were able to do a branding deal with that. You got some jerseys, you got some really great exposure from an event like that. But overall, I think that you've like the sport has really recognized your brand over the last few years. What's that been like, as well as probably some extra phone calls being placed your way in the way of wanting to support riders, teams, and even some factory teams.
I mean, it's really cool, obviously. When the phone rings and it's some big name rider or big name team asking about stuff. That's always a good feeling. Um, it's been a slow process. I mean, I think we first started sponsoring, first pro rider was 2018 or 2019. It was just one guy in Supercross for a couple of rounds, and then the next year we got a couple more guys, and then it grew and grew and grew. And some teams that we've been with for quite a long time, like PRMX is probably the biggest team that we've been with for the longest. Um,
Hey, Top Cowie on the track. That one's handling well.
yeah.
We're not even
Uh,
going to touch that, but
uh, so yeah, they've been with us for such a long time. And then when people see, I mean, I'm going back like 3 or 4 years, when people see that we're making good product and it's successful with them, then the next team comes along and we get Club MX on board, and they've been with us for quite a while now, almost 4 years, if that. Um, I'd have to look it up because everything's a blur, but they've been with us for quite a while, and they're stoked on everything that we've done. So people see Club MX running our stuff, and then we get a phone call from somebody else, and it just kind of goes viral, then this year with Red Bear Cowie running our stuff, we were not unknown in the off-road world, but not super popular. So when you see a factory team just suddenly running all this stuff, then we start getting phone calls from other factory teams and other well-known riders. So that thing's spreading like crazy now too, which is good.
that's interesting. And it's one thing to all of a sudden like you see a lot of your parts being bolted on and bikes that are performing well, but ultimately people and the buying public wouldn't be going to you and relying upon your company to provide great product if it didn't work. Why does Luxon MX work?
Well, we always have been different from everybody else. If you look at our clamps and our products in general, it's pretty obvious side by side with any of our competitors or the stock parts. We put a lot of engineering and analysis into the parts before they're even made, um, which gives us a real big head start on the final design. So the parts that, and we touched on this before, but we use a really advanced optimization process and computer simulation and in all the stresses and load cases and everything to come up with the most optimum part for a given scenario or set of scenarios in this case. And that usually results in something that looks very different than the norm. Um, so we're able to apply all that engineering knowledge and skill, come up with a design that's a lot better from the get-go, and then go test it in the real world, make some final tweaks, and we've got a great design that does it's higher performance than anything else out there. Um, and then we've proven that with all the factory guys and the race teams and riders doing well on that.
Fair enough. How long until your triple clamps are spread across more than half of the field?
Hopefully soon. I don't know. Um, it's
It'd be
hard
good for the
because
bottom line.
yeah, it's tough because there's other companies like Xtrig who's been around a lot longer than us, and they went nuts a couple of years ago, just giving away a ton of product, and I'm sure they're paying some of their top teams and stuff.
Right.
Um, we have yet to pay anybody, and I don't really plan on paying anyone. I want the performance to speak for itself. I mean, the top teams are getting free stuff. Um, so
Obviously.
in that respect, we're paying, but we're not writing anybody a check, and we never have. Um, so the performance of the product it speaks for itself, and the teams that have it choose it. So they could choose Xtrig or another company, but they choose us.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Just because
it's
it works.
yeah, and as we prove that more and more down the road and over the years, that we'll start getting more and more teams, um, and it's at some point it comes kind of overwhelming because we're still a small company, so we can only push out so much product, and the teams really need a lot of stuff.
Oh, certainly, and we've seen that with other companies and different types of companies before. Like graphic companies, seems like almost every 2 or 3 years there's a new graphic company that comes out and basically is like, yeah, we're giving free graphics to half the field, and then like that's supposed to stir up sales, but if the math doesn't work out properly, you can just it can just become a very expensive venture that you're hoping that you make the sales just to recoup the dollars from the product that you're sending out. Yeah, like you feel like we're not going to get into the numbers that we talked about off air, but supporting a team is no small endeavor, especially in the off-road world where that's a little hard on some stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we can give some rough numbers on things where if you got a team that has, say, three riders, they obviously need three sets of clamps for the race bikes. There's three sets of clamps for practice bikes and at least one set for spare. So that's seven sets of clamps. Of course, you got to have bar mounts that go with all that, spare parts, bolts, whatever. Um, and that's the bare minimum. Now, the bigger teams, then there's one-off races and one-off bikes and all sorts of stuff that you don't really think about, that they're getting extra parts for. Um, and they usually have more riders. They've got amateur squad. It adds up real quick. Um, and then multiply that by, I don't even know how many teams we're working with this year, but it's a lot. Suddenly you're in the hundreds of triple clamps and parts that you're giving away, which is expensive. I don't want to give any price numbers away, but a lot of people think that things only cost us, tens of dollars to make, our cost, which is not even close to true. They are hundreds of dollars to make. Um, yeah, that the cost for us adds up real quick.
Yeah, the markup in hard parts is not nearly what it is in say soft goods, where someone can make a jersey for $10 and sell it for 90. And then yeah, like just spinning the clocks back a minute or so here. Sometimes one of your sponsored racers lets you know that a track wants their bike in a Hall of Fame. And it's going to have those triple clamps on. Although that is cool, and like people who visit will see those triple clamps on it for many years to come. That's still a brand new set of triple clamps or a very gently used set of triple clamps that will be static for the remainder of its life sitting there. So that's kind of interesting as well. Like I
Yeah.
imagine that phone call is a little odd as well.
Well, it's cool to have your clamps on a bike that's in a museum. And it's more eyes on it. So at the end of the day, it's all about exposure. I mean, that's all the racing sponsorship is
Right.
people seeing that, yeah, they're there and they work, they're proven. So it's just another form of exposure, which is it's a good thing. So can't complain about it. And it's just different exposure. So
Certainly, and you're like not only have you been working with BigMx Radio for this is now 3 years in a row, you've expanded that and also supporting the Pulp MX show, which I imagine has been quite beneficial for you guys as well.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about getting eyes on us and getting our name out there everywhere we can. So sponsoring a few different podcasts, doing advertisements with magazines and forums, just pushing out things as much as we can through the social media. We've stepped that up a lot this year.
Yeah,
Uh, so
that's
before
been big.
it was just me like on the phone and putting videos together and posts and whatnot, which is hard to balance with all the other stuff that's on my plate. And then I'm no professional videographer or anything. So um, got a guy hired to do that and he's doing an awesome job. And if you've been following our social the last year or so, you've probably seen it step up quite a bit.
Certainly, and also on top of that, working with Michael over at 23 Media, that guy is a great asset for you guys as well. So, yeah, Luxon Mx is absolutely everywhere. And did you happen to mention Ducati earlier?
Yep. Yeah. We got a set of Ducati clamps and engine mounts in house here. They're here.
Boom,
So we're,
at an arm's reach.
yeah, they're at arm's reach because I've been working with them. So we're in the middle of reverse engineering those, to come up with a new product for those.
That's super neat. Is there any way that you could kind of like show us a little bit about what goes into working with a product like that?
Yeah, I can give you a quick demo here.
All right, cool.
Let me figure out how to share the screen.
little shift on the fly and dive into a bike that I think a lot of people are very interested in, the Ducati. Like not priced out of this world as many expected it to be. Maybe a few $100s more than a KTM or Husky. But yeah, very, very neat motorcycle and great to see the Italian brand yeah, make its entrance into the motocross world. That is pretty neat right there. We're looking at, for those who are listening to this on the audio, you might want to flip this thing over to the YouTube version of the podcast and check out, yeah, 3D model of that's the Ducati clamp right there.
Yeah, so this is the stock Ducati clamp. This, I mean, it matches the one that's sitting here
Yeah,
on
same
my
color and
desk.
everything.
Yeah. So we take the stock clamps as a starting point because obviously we know that works to some extent, um, and then reverse engineer it, create a full 3D model of that, which is what you're seeing on the computer here. So the next step from this point is to create a finite element model of this, which we can basically reverse engineer how much stiffness it has in the different directions, how strong it is, that sort of thing. And then we have those points known data. So when we come up with our design, we can then do the same process and then see how we fare as far as stiffness into in the different directions. We know the weights, we know strengths, all that. So we're able to compare all that data and in the analysis world and come up with a product that's better on the computer. Then we take that, actually prototype it, get it out to some test riders. They test it and give us feedback. We go back and make some changes and do that a few times until we come up with the final product.
So you talk about testing, and testing is not an easy endeavor for any aftermarket company. I don't imagine that our friends over at Kawasaki are dialing you up the moment that the 2026s hit the shores for you to be able to get your hands on it and be able to work with it. Without giving away all of your secrets, how is it possible to sort of 3D model something like this and then put that into practice into something that actually ends up beating and is more performance oriented than the stock model?
Yeah. So first off, we have to get the parts in our hands, which is easier said than done oftentimes. The the teams we work with are useful in sending us some parts when we need them, but we're certainly not getting a phone call from Yamaha or Cowie or Ducati saying, "Hey, here's your bike for the week." We have to find a way to get one, whether we go buy one or we find a rider locally that's willing to let us borrow it for a few days, or sometimes the magazines will let us borrow a bike for a day or two, and we kind of got to scrounge around to get something in hand.
Right.
And then as soon as it comes in, we're nonstop just trying to reverse engineer, figure out as much info as we can before we have to give it back. So that's why another reason to make a full 3D model of the thing is this exists now, it's ours. So I can give the clamps back. There's really no use for them. And then, like I said, go through that whole process I described to come up with our product. So it depends on the part, whether it's brand new, like it's harder to get a brand new bike like the Ducati than it is to get like a Yamaha 250F because it's not really different than last year. So it's interesting. Working with the teams has been nice. So like Stu Baylor would call up and say, "Hey, we want to try this." So they'd ship me a part, and then I can take some time with it and do my work with it. But other brands that we don't have a relationship with, it's a lot harder. We got to find a local guy that has one, or find a dealership that's really nice to us and go in there and do our thing.
And I'm sure that the turnaround time varies between depending on what product it is and what the sort of end result you want it to be. But what is your like an expected turnaround time if for like basically from when you get this in your hands to when you can 3D model it to when Luxon MX can produce a finished product? Roughly how much time is that?
It varies tremendously on our current workload, what other products we're working on at the time, and then the the priority shifts constantly, depending on what's hot and who needs what. So it's not really fair to say it takes this many days, weeks, months, or really not possible to say, just because things are shuffling around all the time. So we're not a huge company, so it's not like I'm an engineer working at this big company and my job is Ducati clamps.
Mm-hmm.
My job is everything. So it makes it real hard to give solid timelines, which is annoying to everyone we work with, but it's just what it is. But if you want to talk about just how long it takes to do something, I modeled these clamps up in a day or so, day and a half. So they match the stock clamps. They weigh the same within a gram on the SolidWorks mass properties. We physically measured everything, calipers, whatnot, but also on our CMM. So we know exactly where the steering stops are relative to the stem and everything. So when we make a product based on this data, it's going to fit, or we have a very high confidence that it will fit.
Fair enough. So replicating the fit of the OEM product is one part of it. How do we improve it? And when so for you, when you get your hands on this triple clamp, what was the first thing that came to mind when it came to this specifically the Ducati clamp?
So the first thing we'd look at is how close is this to another existing clamp? Because in general with clamps, they're the same. You're seeing the same loads, whether it's a Ducati or a Yamaha or Suzuki or
Right.
whatever. And they do the same thing. They hold the fork tube, steering stem, bar mounts. They use similar bearings, all that. So the things that really change are where are the steering stops located and where all the plastics bolt up, and like bar mount positions and stuff. But that doesn't vary dramatically. The biggest thing that's a dramatic variance is the steering stop location. So when I look at a new set of clamps I haven't seen before, those are the things I'm looking for and what's it similar to. So if you look at these and you're familiar with other clamps, you'd see that they're very similar to a Kawasaki or Honda layout. So I know that what works really well for a Kawi and what works for a Honda, they're very similar. So we can use that as our base design. So we'll start with one of those, and then adapt all the sizing and everything so that they'll fit on the Ducati. And then we'll run the analysis comparison between the stock clamps and what we've come up with. And then we'll have two numbers to look at. And we also have talked to various riders and teams and whatnot. And so we have their input as to what they're looking for, what's missing, what needs to be changed, et cetera. So we can leverage all that together with our past knowledge of doing this hundreds of times now to come up with our first pass at a design. And it's based on real numbers and requests. So we're usually pretty close to spot on when we hand it over. So then they'll test it and then maybe make some minor tweaks, and we'll go back and forth a couple times, couple prototypes until we have the final design, and then it's ready for sale.
And I imagine through your time doing this, it becomes a little bit more refined as far as how many different prototypes have been needed in order to get that desired result. Has Luxon MX as a company become more refined that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, there was a big learning curve from when we started to now. Like the engineering has always been there, but there are nuances to this market and to people's needs and everything that you're always learning. And then just learning how to test, how to work with test riders, how to work with different riders. I mean, you get a top pro is going to be different than a privateer is going to be different than your weekend warrior, and their needs will be slightly different. In some areas, vastly different. So you need to come up with designs that work well for both of them. And that's where a lot of adjustability comes into play. So yeah, we're always learning. But I mean, I don't want to say we're done learning. We're certainly not, but we know a whole lot more than we did 3 years ago. So at this point, it's a lot easier for us to go from this 3D model of a stock clamp to a near finished design in a lot less time.
Very, very neat. So we're looking forward to more from the Ducati brand in the years that come. I assume they'll probably do a 250 as well to match the 450. Not entirely sure if they'll ever really get into the mini bike game whatsoever. Although it seems to me there's more manufacturers moving away from that as an important rather than going towards it. Like for you as a company and you as a designer who like an engineer who has been your favorite test rider to work with, or who do you feel like you get the most amount of usable feedback from? I know you've been close with the MXA guys quite a bit, and also working with the other publications as well.
So test riders, as far as media outlets,
Yeah, or
I
just like no, but you doesn't even have to be a media outlet. Just like who like if you needed like reliable feedback that you know is the person actually has a good feel for it, and they're not just saying something to say something because there's plenty of those guys that exist. Who's your first call?
honestly, Josh Moseman over at MXA, and then really most of the crew over there, Josh Fout and those guys. They're really good at testing. I mean, that's their job. They're also media people. I mean, they do other things, but they're out at the track all the time, riding a lot of different bikes. So they know what the range is of what they can expect, and they're able to do a lot of back-to-back testing. Easy to work with because I can drive up to Glen Helen and we can do back-to-back on stock versus our stuff at all the different offsets in a day, and then go back to stock and get their feedback on everything. Um, and we obviously do that with all sorts of parts. Um, the pros are a little bit different. I mean, Moseman is a pro, but he's not like super high level pro. So their needs are different. Also, their experiences are different. Um, we did a lot of testing with Jeremy Martin when he was on Club MX in the development of the Gen 3 Pro clamp.
Mhm.
So that was a great experience. There was some interesting things there. And um, yeah, so testing with pros is a little bit different. Testing with Jeremy Martin on the Gen 3 Pro triple clamp development was a great experience. But it had some challenges. So when he was here, um, well, the initial testing, we had a bunch of prototypes and we went back and forth, and all that was really going down in Club MX, which is the other side of the country.
Right.
So there's a lot of shipping, and I'm shipping different parts, and I'm trying to come up with a test plan. And then what they do over there varies sometimes for different reasons. Um, so they ship back what information they have from what they actually tested, and then trying to make sense of the feedback from that was interesting. They actually ended up testing two things that were identical, and had different results. But they tested a whole lot of stuff. So there's a big psychological aspect when you know you're getting something and it's different. Um, you're going to come up off the track and be like, oh yeah, it did something different, whether it really did or not. But it was kind of funny because they tested two absolutely identical sets of triple clamps. There, you couldn't try to make them more identical. Same material, same. They were made hours apart from one another. Same anodized batch, same everything. Um, but it's just funny, the whole psychological thing. Like he was told that they were different, so he came away with a different feeling. Um, but
If
there was a
that's
lot
not
of,
an advertisement for the fact that motocross racers are head cases, I don't know what is.
yeah, and that, I mean, I'm not trying to throw Jeremy under the bus or anything, but like that's consistent with a lot of different test riders. And you, as the engineer, listening to the feedback, you kind of got to filter things. Um, and there was a lot of good feedback that we used in the development of the clamps for sure, but you got to filter out some of this other stuff, the noise. Um, and we do our best to interpret that and then make the changes on an engineering side, and then create a new prototype, get it out and test with them again, and then make sure we're going the right direction and it's addressing the concerns. So it was a good experience all around, great experience. It's just kind of funny the things that happen and the things you learn of dealing with like a subjective um, feedback like that. Um,
Right. And then that's sort of just like misleading because the rider was led to believe that these two things are different. You should feel something, or you could potentially feel something. And like it's like you're almost like Jeremy's almost looking for something that's not there. Finds something in his own perception. And that's actually kind of speaks volumes of the fact that having good test riders is extremely important because in certain situations you could be sort of led down a rabbit hole that's leads to not a lot of progress.
yeah, and I mean, Jeremy is a great test rider too. He's widely regarded as a great test rider. There are riders who are garbage test riders. Um, I remember Phil making fun of Enzo a few years ago that he could ride around on a flat tire and not even know it. Um, so yeah, I mean, Jeremy's great to deal with. We're also dealing with a game of telephone because they're across the country, and
Yes, time
like
zones,
Jeremy
three
would tell
hours.
the team manager, and the team manager would call me and tell me, or I'd get an email or text or something. So there's the filtration that happens through that process, and finally we got our final prototype out, and he came out here for testing. So we tested at a Yamaha test track, and it was good to see him in person and actually get direct feedback and work his way through the tuning too, because there's tuning that could be done, especially with our Gen 3 Pro clamps, all the adjustability and everything. So it's a big process. But yeah, just to round this out, the testing with the pros is different than testing with the media outlets, is different than testing with the general public. And it's pros and cons all around, and good insight from every part of it. So it's hard to be the engineer and have to filter all that down and make a product that's good for everybody.
Certainly. And on that note, is there a product that Luxon MX has been able to produce over the many years that you've been working within the space that you feel makes the biggest impact and maybe you yourself are maybe the most proud of to be able to bring to market because it provides a real solution?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that the kind of obvious answer is our triple clamps,
Mhm.
because they're so different than everything else out there. Um, they're not just a machined chunk of aluminum. I mean, we didn't start as a machine shop. We started as an engineering firm. We just happen to have a machine shop. So they're very advanced from both the engineering and the machining side of things, and we've looked at it from a different viewpoint than most anyone else. So we're able to create real change. It's not just a machine version of stock. So there are significant differences. You can feel it, you can see it. Um, it's just better in every way. And then all of our reviews and tests kind of show that.
Fair enough. Well, where can people find out more information? And when they do get their information they need and make an informed purchase, they can use discount code BigMx 2025 at checkout to save 10%. Where do they go?
The website's great, luxonmx.com. Our social media is great. Instagram primarily at LuxonMX. All our contact info is on the website. So yeah.
Right on. Well, Billy, thank you so much for making the time for the podcast. Thank you so much for supporting BigMx Radio for all the years that you have so far. Looking forward to the next time that I pick your brain because, like I said right off the hop, I always learn something. Thanks again for the time.
Yeah, absolutely.